What happens when a family's darkest secret is uncovered and it shatters everything you thought you knew about love, betrayal, and power? What if the person you trust most, the one you've built your entire life around, has been hiding a horrific truth? What if the betrayal cuts deeper than you could ever imagine, and it's someone you've always called family? Can you ever truly trust your family, or are they just the monsters in disguise? Stay with me. Because in the next few minutes, you're going to uncover a truth so shocking it will make you question everything you thought you knew about loyalty, justice, and love. Ready to solve the mystery? Let's uncover the lies together. This is the story of how a billionaire heir, a ruthless patriarch, and a pregnant wife become embroiled in a nightmare of violence, secrets, and a betrayal so deep it will leave you questioning the very essence of trust. Meet Alexander Cross, a man who inherited more than just his family's wealth. He inherited the power to control, to shape, and to dominate. A billionaire heir to one of Australia's most influential dynasties. His life should have been a fairy tale built on a foundation of success and luxury. But behind the polished surface of his empire lies a far darker reality. Then there's Olivia Cross, a beautiful 28-year-old woman who married into this family, believing in the perfect life that comes with a fairy tale wedding. She's 7 months pregnant, and everything seems to be falling into place. But her world is about to come crashing down. And at the center of it all, Victor Cross, Alexander's father, an imposing figure who has spent a lifetime building an empire, but one built on manipulation, control, and cold ambition. A man who will stop at nothing to protect his legacy, even if it means destroying the very people he claims to love. Stay tuned as we unravel the lies, the hidden truths, and the shocking betrayal that will change everything. Trust will be tested, family bonds will break, and you'll be left wondering how far can someone go to protect their own bloodline. At first glance, Alexander Cross seems to have it all. He's the kind of man the world envies, an Australian billionaire with connections that stretch from the glitzy streets of Sydney to the towering skyscrapers of the world's wealthiest cities. Power is his currency, and with it he built an empire, one that commands respect, admiration, and fear. Alexander is the embodiment of success. He's the heir to a legacy forged through ruthless ambition with a mind sharp enough to navigate the cutthroat world of high-stakes business. His name alone opens doors. Doors that lead to exclusive parties, private jets, and deals that shape the future of entire industries. People admire him for his vision, his strategy, and the power he wields. And most are too afraid to ask how he got there. But behind those cold, calculating eyes lies the perfect facade. His wife, Olivia Cross, is the picture of grace, a 28-year-old woman who fits perfectly beside him in the public eye. Beautiful, poised, and glowing with excitement. Olivia is 7 months pregnant with their first child. She's the image of happiness. A loving wife and soon-to-be mother full of hope for the future she believes they're building together. What he but Olivia comes from a modest background. Hard work, charity, and love were her guiding principles. She spent her life giving back, believing that love and kindness should guide every decision. And when she met Alexander, she thought she had found the perfect man, the man who would help her build the perfect life. She trusts him completely. Their world is flawless, their love undeniable. Or so she thinks. But as you'll soon see, what's presented to the world isn't always the truth, and the perfect life they've built together is about to crumble in the most unimaginable way. Hold on. Because the reality behind their image of perfection is far darker than Olivia could have ever anticipated. As the months pass, cracks begin to show beneath the polished surface of Alexander and Olivia's marriage. It starts small little moments that Olivia brushes off. Too subtle to notice at first, but something begins to shift. Alexander, once so attentive, becomes distant. His presence, once warm and reassuring, now feels cold, calculating. The affectionate gestures he used to shower her with, are replaced with cold indifference. His focus is on business. On his empire, and on things that Olivia doesn't feel part of anymore. He isolates her, slowly, pulling her away from the friends and family she once relied on. Olivia tries to ignore it, tries to convince herself that it's just stress from Alexander's work, that it's normal for a billionaire to be consumed by the demands of his empire. But the distance grows. Her calls to her sister go unanswered. Her visits to her parents are met with excuses, and soon she realizes she's alone in a mansion built for two. Still, Olivia clings to the hope that this is just a phase. After all, they're about to have a baby together, the first true joy in their otherwise perfect life. But with each passing day, the unease grows and her suspicions begin to take root. Then there's Victor Cross, Alexander's father, the patriarch of the family, the man whose shadow looms over everything Alexander does. At first, he's just a presence in the background, a man of few words. But as Olivia's pregnancy progresses, she starts to feel the weight of his gaze a little more acutely. It starts with small odd moments. Victor always seems to be around, more so than usual. He appears unannounced at the house, making excuses to check in on Olivia's pregnancy. He hovers a little too closely when he speaks to her. His questions about her health and well-being unusually personal. His eyes linger on her growing belly, a look she can't quite place. It doesn't feel like concern. It feels possessive. Olivia brushes it off, telling herself that Victor is just a concerned father to be excited about his first grandchild. But then, during a private dinner, a moment of tension crackles between father and son. A brief, uncomfortable silence that neither of them acknowledges, but Olivia feels in the air. Alexander stiffens when Victor mentions the baby. There's a strange unspoken tension between them, as if there's something more to their relationship than she understands. As the weeks go on, Olivia's discomfort deepens. She begins to feel like she's walking on eggshells around Victor, avoiding eye contact and making sure to keep her distance. But every time she looks at Alexander, she sees the same unsettling distance in his eyes. Is it just stress, or is there something more going on? Something she's not seeing. Everything she thought she knew about her life, about the man she married, is beginning to feel like a lie. Olivia's unease begins to shift into something darker, something she can't ignore. The cracks in Alexander's behavior seem to mirror the unsettling actions of his father, Victor. At first, she tries to brush it off as nothing more than harmless over-attention, but as the days stretch on, she starts to question herself and Victor's intentions. It begins with the comments subtle but unsettling. At a family gathering, Victor remarks on how glowing Olivia looks. But the compliment feels off, like it's too personal, too intimate. Pregnancy suits you, Olivia, he says with a smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. I'm sure you'll make a beautiful mother. Especially to my grandchild. His words linger in the air long after he said them, the possessive undertone sending an uncomfortable shiver down her spine. Olivia laughs it off, pretending she hasn't noticed. After all, what harm is there in a father-in-law making a comment about his daughter-in-law's appearance? But then it happens again. And again. Each time his remarks grow more pointed, more personal. You should be proud, Olivia. This child is going to carry on the Cross legacy. He says it like a command, not a compliment. It's as if their baby doesn't belong to her and Alexander at all, but to him, to Victor. And it doesn't stop there. Victor begins to show up uninvited. His visits, once rare and formal, become more frequent and worse. Yet, more unwelcome. He knocks on their door without warning, claiming he's just in the neighborhood. Just wanted to check on you both, he says with a smile that doesn't match the discomfort in Olivia's stomach. She starts to dread the sound of the doorbell, knowing it will be him invading their home again. He arrives during times when Alexander is away, always at moments that feel like calculated invasions of her privacy. He insists on joining Olivia for lunch when Alexander is on a business trip, staying far too long, asking far too many personal questions about her pregnancy, about their plans for the baby. But it's the way he looks at her when she answers that leaves Olivia feeling exposed, like she's being studied, examined, as if he's trying to uncover something about her, something he can use. Her instinct tells her to run, to lock the doors, to keep him out. But she's trapped. What's worse, Alexander brushes off her concerns whenever she tries to talk about his father's behavior. You're overthinking things, Olivia. Father's just excited. He's always been intense, but he means no harm. Olivia, caught between loyalty to her husband and a growing sense of dread, tries to ignore it. But deep down, she knows something is wrong. The unease that began with subtle comments and uninvited visits is growing into something darker, something that's now impossible to dismiss. Victor's behavior is no longer just uncomfortable. It's dangerous. But Olivia doesn't yet realize the full extent of the trap closing in around her. Olivia can no longer ignore the mounting tension in her life. What once felt like passing discomfort now lingers in every corner of her existence. The fear that something is wrong begins to creep into her thoughts slowly but undeniably at a family dinner. The moment happens again. Victor, with that familiar cold smile, leans in a little too close. His hand, large and firm, lands on her growing belly. She freezes, feeling the warmth of his touch seep through her clothes, his fingers pressing against her skin in a way that doesn't feel fatherly at all. She shivers, unable to mask the rising panic inside her. His hand rests there too long. And when she tries to move away, he tightens his grip, his eyes locked on hers with an intensity she's never seen before. You're carrying my grandchild, Olivia, he says softly, almost possessively. I'll make sure he or she is well taken care of. You can count on me. She doesn't say a word, her heart racing in her chest as she pulls away as politely as she can. Alexander, seated across the table, never notices. He's distracted, talking business as usual, completely unaware of the tension building between his father and his wife. But Olivia feels at it the suffocating weight of it all. Over the next few days, Victor's behavior escalates. He shows up at their home more frequently, unannounced. Always. When Alexander is away, he insists on checking in on Olivia's health, asking personal questions about her pregnancy, her feelings, and strangely about the baby's father. Olivia starts to feel like a prisoner in her own home. Surrounded by walls of unspoken tension, too scared to confront anyone, too isolated to escape. As the weeks pass, her anxiety reaches a breaking point. She no longer feels safe. Not with Alexander. Not with Victor, not even with the child growing inside her. She starts to notice things she hadn't before. The small gestures, the strange words, the way Victor's eyes follow her, the possessiveness in his tone. It's as if he's staking a claim. Not just on her, but on the baby. With every touch, every comment, Olivia's unease grows. The fear gnaws at her. Could she really be in danger? Could the baby inside her be a victim of something far darker than she ever imagined? Desperate for answers, Olivia takes matters into her own hands. Quietly, without telling anyone, she arranges for a private DNA test. A simple, discreet way to put her mind at ease. She needs to know the truth, even if she's terrified of what it might reveal. The results arrive a week later. The test is simple. Her blood, Alexander's, and the unborn child's. She opens the envelope slowly. Her hands trembling. Her eyes scan the report, the words blurring together. But then she sees it. The words that will shatter everything. The baby isn't Alexander's. It's Victor's. The man she's married to, the man she trusted, the man who swore to protect her, has lied to her in the most unimaginable way. The baby she thought was the symbol of their future. A new life to bond them together isn't his at all. It belongs to his father. And the father she's trusted for so long has just become the ultimate monster. Olivia's world implodes. The truth hits her like a physical blow. She can't breathe. She can't think. Her mind races trying to make sense of it all. How? Why? What does this mean for her marriage? For her future, for the child she's carrying? Her hands shake as she closes the report, tears streaming down her face. The man she thought she knew. The man she had loved, had betrayed her in the most horrific way. And the worst part, she was trapped. The family she'd married into was far more dangerous than she'd ever imagined. She had nowhere to turn, no one to help her. Her fear is now tangible, and she knows nothing will ever be the same again. Olivia's life is now a shattered reflection of what it once was. The truth, written in cold, undeniable words on the DNA report, gnaws at her every waking moment. She can't escape it. The child growing inside her is not the symbol of a new life with Alexander. It is the twisted evidence of her deepest fears. Her husband's father has violated her in the most unimaginable way. She begins to piece together the puzzle. The odd behavior from Victor that she had dismissed before now takes on a terrifying new meaning. The uninvited visits, the strange looks, the questions about her health that always felt like probing, not concern, his hand lingering on her stomach too long, the possessiveness in his voice when he spoke of the baby, all of it, in hindsight was part of the same web of manipulation and control. And then there's the tea. The day she felt dizzy and confused, Victor had brought it over, claiming it was a special blend from his travels. She drank it without question, thinking nothing of it at the time. But now, as the pieces fall into place, she realizes something far more sinister. She had been drugged. The dizziness, the sudden memory gaps, the feeling of vulnerability. It all makes sense now. It wasn't just stress. It wasn't just pregnancy hormones. She had been drugged by the very man she had once trusted his family. Her stomach turns at the thought. She feels trapped, unable to breathe under the weight of this discovery. How could this have happened? And worse, how could Alexander, the man she loved, remain blind to the reality of what was unfolding? She can't keep the truth inside anymore. She has to confront him, no matter the cost. With trembling hands, she approaches her husband, desperate for some kind of explanation, desperate to make him see the truth. The silence between them feels suffocating as she gathers the courage to speak. "I don't think this baby is yours," she says, her voice barely above a whisper. The words hang in the air, too heavy to escape, too real to deny. For a moment, Alexander doesn't respond, his face hardens, his eyes narrowing. There's a flicker of something in his gaze, something Olivia doesn't recognize. But then the mask drops, and he's the man she's married to again. "What are you talking about, Olivia?" His voice is tight, defensive. "You're just stressed. You're overreacting." He steps toward her, trying to dismiss her words, but she holds her ground. She can't look away from him, searching his face for any sign that he might understand, but there's nothing. Instead, he turns his back, walking away to hide his anger, his fear, his guilt. Olivia's heart shatters as the truth sinks in. His reaction isn't surprise. It isn't confusion. It's something else. Something far darker. He knows. Deep down, Alexander knows exactly what's happened. The quiet acknowledgement in his eyes confirms it. He's already made his peace with it. Or worse, he doesn't care. Olivia stands frozen, her entire world crumbling around her. In that moment, the man she thought she knew, the man she trusted, had become a stranger. And the family she had once thought was her safety net had turned into the cage she couldn't escape. The air in their home has grown thick with unspoken words as Alexander battles his own demons in silence. He's no longer the man Olivia married, but a man fractured by the weight of the truth. The revelation about his father, about Olivia's pregnancy, shreds every ideal, every ounce of loyalty he once held dear. His mind races as he replays the days leading up to this moment. Victor's visits, the possessive comments, the look in his father's eyes that he had tried so hard to ignore. How could he have been blind to the truth? The man he had always admired, the father he had looked up to, had been hiding the most monstrous secret. It wasn't just an affair. It wasn't just betrayal. His own father had violated his wife. Alexander's internal struggle consumes him. A burning rage churns inside him, but it's coupled with a deep, gnawing sense of guilt. He should have protected Olivia. He should have been the one to shield her from his father's twisted desires. But instead, he had allowed it all to happen, too blinded by his father's power to see the truth. His own weakness sickens him. But the more he confronts it, the more he sinks into denial. How could he confront his father? How could he ever undo the damage? The child growing inside Olivia, his own flesh and blood, is a constant reminder of the horror that now ties his family together. The weight of the betrayal is unbearable, but it's also something that Alexander refuses to face. Deep down, he knows there's no turning back. His father is too powerful, too entrenched in the family's legacy, and the idea of breaking the dynasty, of destroying everything they've built, terrifies him more than the thought of losing Olivia. Olivia, meanwhile, becomes more and more desperate. She can feel the emotional distance between them growing by the day. Alexander is no longer the man she fell in love with. He's a stranger, a shadow of the person she once knew. His coldness, his detachment, fills her with dread. She reaches out to him, trying to find a way back to the man she once trusted. But her efforts are met with nothing but silence and dismissals. Every time she tries to bring up the truth, the reality of Victor's betrayal, the truth about the baby, Alexander shuts her down. He belittles her fears, dismisses her concerns, and accuses her of overreacting. This is just stress, Olivia. You need to relax. It's all in your head. His words cut deeper than she wants to admit. She feels like she's walking through a fog, desperately trying to reach out to the man she married, only to be met with walls of indifference. She's not just alone in this marriage. She's invisible to him. As the days pass, Olivia's fear only grows. She starts to lose herself in the uncertainty, in the crushing weight of her situation. She's carrying a child that isn't even her husband's. And the father of that child is a man she can no longer trust. One whose power stretches so far that even Alexander refuses to confront him. She has nowhere to turn, no one to talk to, and the walls around her feel like they're closing in. Alexander's struggle becomes a ticking time bomb. The tension between him and Olivia is palpable. But instead of confronting the truth, he withdraws further into himself, unable or unwilling to acknowledge the damage already done. His avoidance only drives a deeper wedge between them, and Olivia realizes with increasing horror that the man she thought she knew has already made a choice. Their marriage, once built on love and trust, is now teetering on the edge of destruction. And as Alexander's silence grows louder, Olivia's fears turn into something far more dangerous, an impending storm that will soon break in a way neither of them can control. Alexander's mind is a battlefield. The weight of his father's betrayal presses down on him with a suffocating force, and he can no longer escape the truth. Each day feels like a slow unraveling as his thoughts spiral further out of control. He cannot erase the image of his father's face, the way he looked at Olivia, the way he touched her. He can't escape the guilt, the shame that gnaws at him relentlessly, like a constant reminder of his own failure. How could he have been so blind? How could he not have seen it? The thought keeps circling in his head, a refrain that he cannot silence. His father had always been cold, always calculating, but never this monstrous. And yet he had let his father control every aspect of their lives, his marriage, his family, his future. Alexander had idolized Victor for so long, thinking he was a man of strength, of wisdom. Now he knows the horrifying truth. Victor was a predator and Alexander had allowed it to happen. His rage is explosive, but it's not directed at the man who truly deserves it. Victor. Instead, it burns inward, consuming him with shame, guilt, and disgust. He's angry at himself. Angry for not protecting Olivia. Angry for not being the husband, the man he promised to be. Every time he sees Olivia, every time he looks at her growing belly, he is reminded of his own weakness. Alexander becomes obsessed with the DNA test results. It's all he can think about. The report, the confirmation that his father is the biological father of Olivia's child, haunts him. He stares at it repeatedly as if willing himself to unsee the truth. But it's there, staring back at him, cold and undeniable. The reality of it twists his insides, and the once proud man starts to fracture. He's drowning in the weight of it all. Unable to breathe, unable to think clearly. He starts to avoid Olivia completely. His anger at himself is too much for him to face her, to look her in the eyes without seeing everything he's lost. And yet, he can't escape the constant need to protect his family's legacy. The Cross Empire is everything to him, everything his father worked for, everything Alexander was supposed to inherit. The thought of losing it all to the truth of his father's actions drives him to madness. The idea of the Cross name being destroyed, of his entire life and his marriage crumbling because of one terrible mistake consumes him. His judgment becomes clouded. He no longer sees clearly. The line between right and wrong begins to blur as the weight of maintaining the family's image overwhelms him. He starts to question everything. What's more important? Protecting Olivia and the child, or Preserving the family name, the legacy that is his birthright. Everything he has worked for. Everything he's built is crumbling, and it's all his fault. He feels cornered, trapped in a cage of his own making. The more he tries to justify his father's actions, the more irrational and disconnected from reality he becomes. He starts to justify the unthinkable, telling himself that the family name is worth saving at any cost. He tells himself that Olivia will understand, that they can fix this if only he can keep the truth hidden, if only he can keep the family intact. Alexander's descent into madness is complete. His mind fractures, his world spins, and the need to protect his legacy warps his sense of right and wrong. His love for Olivia, his once clear sense of justice, has been replaced by a need to protect what he believes is more important, his family's power. And in that moment, Alexander Cross, blinded by rage, shame, and the weight of his own choices, decides that the only way forward is to silence the truth forever. The choices he makes from this point forward will change everything. And the man he once was is gone, replaced by someone willing to do anything to protect the Cross name, no matter the cost. Alexander drives through the streets of the city like a man possessed. The storm of his thoughts whirling uncontrollably. His hands grip the wheel so tightly that his knuckles turn white. He's heading to the one place he thought he would never go, to confront the man who raised him, the man he once idolized, his father. Facey. The truth has broken him. He has spent days agonizing over the decision. Torn between the family name he was born into and the woman he swore to protect. But now there's no turning back. The weight of everything he's learned. The betrayal, the pain, the guilt, it has pushed him to this breaking point. He needs to hear it from Victor's own mouth. He needs to confront the monster behind the mask. When he reaches Victor's estate, Alexander feels a cold shiver crawl down his spine. The house. This grand opulent structure that he has called home for so many years now, feels like a prison. It's here within these walls that everything he thought he knew about his family will be shattered beyond repair. He storms into the study. The room where he once sat as a child, listening to his father's stories of power and ambition. But now it feels like a place of darkness, a place where secrets are kept and the truth is buried. Victor is sitting at his desk, casually reading through papers as if nothing has changed, as if his son hasn't come to confront him about the most horrific betrayal. Victor looks up slowly as Alexander enters, his face unreadable, his eyes cold and calculating. "Son," he says, his voice calm, almost indifferent. "I didn't expect you so soon. What brings you here?" Alexander stands frozen for a moment, his heart pounding in his chest. The anger, the confusion, the hurt, it all rises to the surface. "It's time. Father," he says, his voice strained. "Time for you to tell me the truth about Olivia, about the baby." For the first time, Victor's mask slips. He sits back in his chair, folding his hands in front of him, the same way he's always done when he's preparing to speak. But this time, there's no warmth in his eyes, no fatherly affection, just coldness. "The truth," Victor repeats, his lips curling into a faint smile. "What truth, Alexander?" "The truth you've known deep down all along." Victor's gaze never leaves his son's face as he leans forward slightly, his voice dropping to a low, almost predatory whisper. "She became family when she married you. Everything in this family belongs to me, including her." Those words hit Alexander like a physical blow, knocking the wind out of him. He feels his entire world tilt on its axis as if the ground beneath him is crumbling away. The man he had worshipped for years, the man he believed to be his moral compass, is now Admitting the worst possible truth. Victor continues, his voice smooth, detached. I took what was mine. She's my bloodline, Alexander. My legacy. She was always meant to be mine. And you? Well. You were simply too weak to see it. But now everything is where it should be. The baby will carry on the cross name. And I'll be there every step of the way, watching over you both. After all, I built this family. Every word from Victor's mouth feels like a dagger to Alexander's heart. The man he once looked up to, the man who shaped his life, now seems like a monster. The admiration, the respect he once held for his father is gone, replaced by a sickening realization. His father is not a great man. He is a predator. Alexander's body trembles as he stands there fighting to keep his composure. He feels the weight of the betrayal sinking in, crushing him from all sides. His entire life, his marriage, everything he thought he understood about love and loyalty has been a lie. The moment he looks at his father's face, something inside him breaks. The man who raised him, who taught him everything he knew about success and power, is the very person who has destroyed everything Alexander held dear. The realization hits him with a brutal clarity. There is no redemption. There is no going back. The man he admired, the man he loved, has shattered his life beyond repair. Victor leans back in his chair, a satisfied look in his eyes, as if everything has gone according to plan. He watches his son, seeing the pain, the destruction, and he seems to relish in it. It was always going to be this way, Alexander, Victor says with a cold finality. You were never going to stop me. Alexander's hands begin to shake as he steps back, unable to stand the sight of his father any longer. The man he once believed was a god in his eyes, is now nothing more than a broken image, a broken legacy. He turns away, walking out of the study, his mind fractured. His soul torn. The weight of the truth crashes over him like a tidal wave. And as he steps out into the cold night air, the realization sets in. Nothing will ever be the same again. Alexander's mind is a storm. The confrontation with his father has broken him. But what he faces now is far worse. The battle inside him rages between the man he once was and the man his father has forced him to become. Olivia, the woman he vowed to protect, the mother of his child, is now the symbol of his greatest humiliation. The child growing inside her, his own flesh and blood, has become a permanent reminder of everything that has been destroyed. He cannot escape it. Every time he looks at her, he sees his father's face. The same face that once filled him with pride now fills him with disgust. He can't live with this. He can't raise his father's child. He can't face a life where every glance at his son or daughter reminds him of his father's monstrous betrayal. The weight of that reality presses down on him with suffocating force. In his mind, the solution is clear. He must stop it before it's too late. The baby cannot be born. Olivia cannot carry on because as long as she does, the betrayal, the shame, the power his father still holds over him will never end. Standing in the quiet darkness of their home, Alexander feels a sense of finality settling in his bones. The decision he has made is irreversible, but in his mind, it's the only way to end the torment. His hands tremble, but his resolve is absolute. There is no room left for doubt. He walks silently toward the bedroom where Olivia sleeps soundly, her body curled around her swollen belly. She looks peaceful, unaware of the storm that is about to destroy everything. In the dim light of the room, Alexander stands over her, watching her sleep. She looks beautiful, innocent, and utterly unaware Of the horror he is about to bring down upon them. The man he once was gentle, loving, seems like a distant memory. All he can think about is the suffocating weight of his family's legacy and the destruction it has caused. His heart aches as he watches her sleep, knowing that this will be the last time he sees her like this, her innocence undisturbed. But he tells himself it's necessary for his family, for the name, for the future. With slow, deliberate movements, he reaches for the drawer where the knife is kept. It's a family heirloom, something passed down through generations. He doesn't hesitate. His fingers close around the handle. And for a moment, he wonders if there's any way out of this, any way to turn back, but there isn't. His mind is made up. This is the only way. Olivia stirs slightly as he approaches, but she remains asleep. She is completely unaware of the danger of the man who once promised to protect her, now standing over her with cold, empty resolve. The knife feels heavy in his hand, but he raises it with purpose. He positions it with precision. He has to end this quickly and cleanly. In one swift motion, Alexander strikes. The blade cuts through the silence of the room, and in an instant, the life that had been growing inside Olivia is snuffed out. Olivia gasps, her eyes opening wide with confusion and pain. She tries to cry out, but the words are lost in the blood that pours from her throat. Her hands reach toward her stomach, toward the child she thought she was carrying safely, but it's too late. Her life slips away in a matter of seconds. The vibrant hope she had for their future, for the family they had planned, dies along with her. The room is still, and the only sound that remains is the soft, unsteady rhythm of Alexander's breath. As he stands over her, his hand still gripping the knife, he feels nothing. There is no relief, no satisfaction, just an overwhelming sense of emptiness. He's destroyed everything. But the weight of it doesn't hit him right away. Not yet. The moment is too surreal, too final. His mind can't comprehend the enormity of what he has just done. In the dark, cold silence of the room, Alexander looks down at his wife's lifeless body, her blood staining the sheets, and he knows there is no redemption. With Olivia's death, every shred of hope he had for a life free of his father's shadow is gone. He has become the very thing he despised most. The monster he had once feared. And as he stares at her body, the child that will never be born, he feels the heavy weight of his choices sink into his soul. There is no going back and there is no escaping the consequences of what he's just done. The morning after, the police are called to the Cross estate. A maid arriving for her regular shift finds Olivia's lifeless body sprawled on the bedroom floor. The sight is so horrific she can't even scream. She simply stumbles back, her hands shaking as she reaches for her phone. A call is made and within minutes the authorities arrive. Inside the house is eerily quiet. The only sound the soft echo of footsteps on marble floors. The police discover Olivia's body in a pool of blood. The knife still lying on the floor untouched. It's clear to them that this was no accident. The brutality of the crime, the precision of the attack tells them this was a planned, calculated act. They find Alexander sitting motionless in the living room, his face blank, his eyes glazed. He is catatonic, lost in a fog of his own making. Detectives approach cautiously, but Alexander doesn't react. His gaze is distant, as if he's not even aware of their presence. They cuff him and try to speak to him, but all he mutters over and over like a broken record is, "My father did this, not me. My father." His words make no sense to them at first, but they take note of his strange, detached behavior. The DNA test results come in within hours. They confirm what everyone already suspected. The child Olivia carried wasn't Alexander's. It belonged to Victor Cross, his father. The same man who had manipulated, controlled, and now, in a twisted act of power, destroyed his son's life. Security footage from the estate reveals something even more damning. Victor's frequent visits, his unsettling proximity to Olivia, his cold interactions with her, all the signs of an unhealthy obsession. The footage paints a clear picture of Victor's involvement, his actions, his manipulation. But by the time this evidence comes to light, it's already too late. The damage has been done. Olivia is dead, and Alexander's life is in ruins. The trial begins weeks later. And the courtroom is packed with reporters. The public hungry for details. And the courtroom is packed with reporters. The public hungry for details. The case has captivated the nation. What began as a story of wealth and power has now become a tragedy of betrayal, manipulation, and murder. The Cross family empire, built on decades of lies, is now under the harsh glare of public scrutiny. Alexander's defense team presents an emotional argument. They claim he was psychologically broken, unable to process the betrayal of his father's actions and the shattering of everything he thought he knew about his family. His attorney paints a picture of a man pushed to the edge, a man who could no longer distinguish between the truth and the lies that had been fed to him all his life. This was not a man who murdered out of malice. His lawyer argues this was a man whose mind cracked under the weight of the deception. His father destroyed him, destroyed everything he loved, and Alexander's breakdown was the result of years of emotional manipulation. But the prosecution paints a much darker picture. They focus on the brutal nature of the crime, the cold, calculated way Alexander ended Olivia's life. The fact that he planned it, that he went to such lengths to protect his family's reputation, shows a level of premeditation that cannot be ignored. His mental state, they argue, was not an excuse for murder. The media frenzy is relentless. Cameras flash outside the courtroom. Reporters rush to interview anyone connected to the case, and the public reacts with a mix of outrage, disbelief, and morbid fascination. The Cross family, once the symbol of power and prestige, is now seen as a dynasty built on lies, violence, and corruption. The trial exposes the darkness that lurked behind closed doors in the Cross family home. Victor's actions, his history of manipulation, and his utter lack of remorse become the focus of the proceedings. His cold indifference is on full display as witnesses recount his disturbing behavior toward Olivia, and the public is left to grapple with the horrifying realization. The Cross family's legacy was built on this twisted foundation. But for Alexander, it's already too late. His world has crumbled around him. The family name, once his greatest source of pride, now serves as a constant reminder of the destruction he has caused. He is a man who once had everything. And now in the blink of an eye has lost it all. The empire he was meant to inherit, the love he thought he had, the trust he placed in his own flesh and blood, all of it is gone, replaced by the broken remnants of a life he can never put back together. The tragedy is complete. The Cross dynasty, once untouchable, has been reduced to nothing more than a cautionary tale of power, betrayal, and the devastating consequences of family secrets too dark to ever be revealed. After weeks of tense courtroom drama, the verdict is delivered. Alexander Cross is convicted of manslaughter, but the punishment comes as a bitter pill to swallow for the public. Given his psychological breakdown and the argument of diminished responsibility, his sentence is light. The court, swayed by emotional pleas and expert testimony about his mental state, sentences him to just 12 years, eligible for parole in 7. A man who murdered his wife, the mother of his child, is given a chance to walk free again. The outrage is palpable. Many in the courtroom, and the public at large, feel that justice has not been served. Alexander's mind was broken, but he still took a life. His actions were brutal, calculated, but his punishment, compared to what Olivia's family will live with for the rest of their lives, seems insufficient. There's no denying his guilt, but the legal system, influenced by his wealth and status, has offered him a lighter path. But the true horror comes not from Alexander's punishment, but from the man who caused it all, Victor Cross. Despite the overwhelming evidence of his manipulative, predatory behavior, Victor faces no consequences. His empire, his legacy remain untouched. The truth about his actions, the truth about the child, is laid bare before the world. But his wealth, his power, his connections keep him untouchable. Victor remains seated at the head of his empire. Untouched by the law, his name is still revered by those who fear him. His wealth continuing to shield him from any real consequence. He walks free, living his life as if nothing has happened, as if he hasn't destroyed everything his son ever believed in. The public knows the truth now, and that truth will haunt the Cross family's legacy. But Victor's power ensures that the truth, no matter how damning, doesn't change anything. For all his control, all his manipulation, there are no consequences. For him, no trial, no prison sentence. He is a villain who will never pay for his crimes. As the trial ends and Alexander is led away in handcuffs, the world is left to grapple with a profound question. What is justice when the guilty are protected by power and wealth? How do we reconcile with the darkest sides of our loved ones, those we've trusted most? Can there ever be true justice for victims of power? The Cross Empire, once a symbol of success, now stands as a chilling reminder of the cost of unchecked power. Alexander's broken mind, Olivia's life lost too soon, and the horrific truth about the family that once seemed so perfect will never be forgotten. But for Alexander, his path to redemption will be long and uncertain. As he sits in prison, he must reckon with the man he has become and the consequences of the family that shaped him. The public, too, is left with a haunting question. The Cross legacy remains a family built on lies, manipulation, and violence. But it will never be the same. The empire may endure, but the truth has shattered the illusion. Can Alexander ever find peace, knowing his father is untouchable? Can any of them ever move on, knowing that the true villain walks free while the victim's family bears the weight of the consequences? At the heart of this story lies a fundamental truth about power, justice, and family. The line between right and wrong is often obscured by wealth and influence, and sometimes the darkest secrets can be buried beneath the surface until it's too late. In the end, we are left to ask, how much can we truly trust those closest to us? And can we ever find justice when the system is rigged to protect the powerful? The story of Alexander, Olivia, and Victor Cross serves as a stark reminder. The consequences of betrayal can be catastrophic, and sometimes justice is not a matter of law, but of power. What do you think? Is there ever a justifiable reason for such extreme actions, or does the truth always come first? Could Alexander have found another way to reconcile his love for Olivia with the weight of his father's betrayal? And what about Victor? Should power and wealth protect a man from facing the consequences of his actions? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear from you. If you're fascinated by stories like this, full of betrayal, power, and emotional turmoil. Make sure to subscribe. We'll be back with more true crime stories that explore the darkest sides of human nature and the complex emotional layers that drive people to commit unspeakable acts. Next time, we dive deeper into another story where betrayal turns deadly and the line between right and wrong becomes even murkier. You won't want to miss it.